over to you, Bartek, for your Prod MBA case study.
Okay, so let's start with the case study after all these weeks of hard work. So just to summarize quickly, what I came up with the hypothesis of the problem, then I validated the hypothesis, I validated the offer, and I strategically planned the solution and validated the prototype of the solution. So this is what I want to talk about for next, hopefully 15 minutes. So not to waste time, let's start with the hypothesis. My hypothesis was unemployed 50 plus corporate senior managers struggle to find a new job. And I had my personal motivation for working on this problem because I really wanted to work on something I really care about. I also wanted a challenge, so a problem and issue that is outside of my field of expertise. I know nothing about HR. And I also wanted a challenge with customer discovery because I do have experience with that. So I wanted difficult customer discovery, and that probably might be difficult for me. And also I wanted something that I had to learn from scratch that I did not experience before. So I don't have the unfair advantage of working on something I already know something about. So that was the hypothesis. But hypothesis is not enough to continue working on that. So I needed a validation. I needed a proof that the problem actually exists, that the problem is actually acute as I assume. So that's why I started to look for a representative of my niche to discuss with them if the hypothesis makes sense at all, to dig deeper in the problem, if the problem exists. So my objective was to talk with at least 5 representatives of my niche. And I also wanted to talk with at least one executive recruiter, a headhunter, if you will, just to also get some understanding on the employer's point of view, employer's perspective. I also wanted to check whether LinkedIn and word of mouth or my personal network was a good way of reaching out to my niche also for the future reference. So during 1 week, I was actually able to talk with 5 niche representatives and 2 executive recruiters. I also found out that word of mouth is actually a good way of reaching my niche, at least when it comes to this problem, because the problem is so acute and occurs so often that when I ask, okay, so do you know someone who may share the same experience and might want to talk with me about it? Within an hour, I was getting like 3 phone numbers to these people, to other people from their network. So at this point, I could definitely say that the problem was validated and definitely real and definitely acute. So to zoom a little bit just on the results, I need to be honest and say that I was afraid of talking with these people because, as I said before, I have lots of experience with customer discovery, but this was personal, emotional, difficult, sometimes even embarrassing for them. So I was not really sure whether it would be easy to get info from them. Well, I was wrong. The problem is so big, but they just could not stop talking about it. It was like a psychotherapy session. Some of the calls, I know they were supposed to last maybe 15 minutes. Some of them lasted much, much more time, but were informational, so I didn't waste this time. So I've learned that not all of them struggle with money because actually during their successful careers, they were able to establish passive sources of income to pay their bills. What they struggle is that they feel lack of purpose, they feel being stereotyped as old, they feel not needed. They also start to question their life choices. They think, okay, so if my skills are not needed, I am not needed as well. So maybe I actually wasted my life doing what I was doing. So that was the moment when it got me how acute the problem is. You can look at this quote here. I posted only one in the slide deck. So what happened? I have experience, skill set, I know languages. I was responsible for half of a damn continent. And now what? All of that does not matter anymore. Does nobody want me? Oh, sorry. Does nobody want my skills? They know that this is their skills, but they also feel that it's them who is not wanted anymore. So my understanding of the problem actually evolved during these interviews, because I thought that the struggle was unemployed 50 plus corporate senior managers can't find their jobs. The real problem is unemployed 50 plus corporate senior managers struggle with loose self-esteem and lack of purpose. And once I felt I understood the problem, it was the time to offer something that could maybe solve the problem. But it was definitely too early to create a solution yet. I needed a minimal viable offer that would show the unique value of my solution. And in order to create it, I took the most common frustrations related to the problem and I transformed them into opportunities. Because, well, if we have a problem, it creates an opportunity to solve the problem. So my objective was to create and validate the minimal viable offer, align the product story and canvas, and see if my idea for the solution makes sense in the perspective of Blue Ocean strategy. So I came up with the minimal viable offer that goes like: we enable executives aged 50 plus to discover new purpose in their lives by thoroughly matching them with rising business leaders who need very extensive and diverse experience. After I created this minimal viable offer, I just spent some time on making sure that it actually reflects the opportunities I created based on the interviews with my niche. So once I felt that I get this covered, I was able to see whether this idea makes sense also for people I didn't talk with, because again, it was still too early to work on the solution. I wanted to check that it resonated with other niche, with people I don't have time to discuss it and pitch it and present it personally. Do they feel that the value I'm providing actually helps them? So I created a website according to the guidelines of the program to see if real mentors would really sign up and would really see the value here. So my objective was to have 5% plus sign-up conversion rate, differentiation visible in the Blue Ocean strategy, and product story canvas plus vision aligned. So the first part went really well. I got 19% sign-up conversion rate. I had 83 visits and 16 people signed up. And almost half of them actually filled in the survey with the same questions that I asked during the customer discovery. So that actually proved that the problem is really acute. And now I knew that the offer resonates with the niche. I could go even further with solving the problem. So I did the Blue Ocean strategy exercise to define what parts of the solution I should focus on and what are commodity in the market already. So I wanted to focus on the parts that provide unique value compared to my alternatives. And my alternatives here are LinkedIn, are local mentorship organizations, and startup accelerators. So when I think I provide unique value, is informating reviews, meaning that each mentor's performance is reviewed thoroughly and assessed, carefully curated network of mentors, thanks to assessment I plan to put them through, and very thorough matchmaking process. So thanks to the assessment I'm doing, I am sure that I am putting right mentor with the right mentoree for the mentorship relationship. So it's not something that is done just by accident, like in the case of the alternatives to my solution. So after validation of the Blue Ocean strategy canvas, I wanted to also align the product story canvas just to make sure that I understand better the journey the mentor has to go through in order to get rid of their problem. And thanks to all of that, I was able to come up with the validated product vision. That is, we enable executives aged 50 plus to discover new purpose in their lives. At this point, worth mentioning, I was still not working on a detailed solution, and I was not spending a dime on coding. So that was still strategy-oriented and product-oriented and customer-oriented work. Okay, but at this point, I actually came up with the why. So I also needed to start coming up with the what. So how the solution would make money, what people and experts I need in my team, what parts of the solution are the most important for the strategy. And I wanted to really understand the feasibility and the business sense behind the solution before committing to working on the actual solution. So my objective were to create a strategic roadmap, lean canvas, and team topology at this point of the journey. And I started with strategic roadmap. I wanted my roadmap to be simple and clear. And actually working on it during the workshop with other members of the program helped me a lot in simplifying that and improve the idea in general. So I figured that I need a pool of mentors at the beginning. First, second, if I have my mentors, I can start working on assessing and matching them. And once I have the methodology of matching them, I can automate it and scale it. The ultimate goal is to have a matchmaking process that results in stable and monetizable mentorship relations. So just to focus quickly on one step, this is actually the second step, which is the most important one. So this is the moment when I want to come up with the methodology to assess and match mentors and mentorees. I need to be able to do it manually, because if I'm not able to do it manually, there is nothing to automate and scale later. So I would measure the success of this methodology by satisfaction rate, by mentor NPS, and match lifetime. And this is the second step, which is the most important one, because in order to come up with the most important stuff, I need mentors in my pool. Getting mentors will be hard work, but not that challenging. But without them, I can't create and test my methodology. So the second objective was to focus on business side. And Lean Canvas is a very good way of summarizing everything on one screen, just to make sure that I have a problem definition, I have solution, I have metrics, USP, cost structure. But the most important thing for me was to come up with the very, very crystal clear revenue model and North Star metric. So revenue model will be marketplace like commission, but the metric, the most important one, will be monthly recurring revenue per mentor. This is how this business can make money and generate value also for the owners or investors. The same goal, I mean simplicity, I had with team topology. I wanted it to be clear and simple. The workshop helped me again in simplifying that, so that was really, really valuable part of working on that. And I know now that the most important part is the mentorship experience team that makes sure that the mentors and mentorees are guided through the process properly. And this team focuses on making sure that the retention and the lifetime value of the mentor is as high as possible. This way, this team contributes the most to the monthly recurring revenue per mentor, which is the North Star metric for me. But to give enough job to do to this team, I obviously need sales, marketing, and of course, I also need the experts on mentors assessment and matching. Here we need psychologists probably and people experienced in HR to maybe not work for the company, but definitely to mentor or consult our ideas. Okay, so at this point, I had validated problem, validated offer, plan for the solution. So the next step was actually to see whether my solution will deliver the value I want to deliver. Well, that was challenging because it's not an app, it's not a piece of software, it's a process. So it's very difficult to prototype the process. It's a very unique process. So that's why I decided myself that my objective was to apply key points of the journey in real life to test whether the journey is optimal. Second one, to assess and match mentors manually to see whether I can do it, because if I can't do it, as I said, I can't automate it and scale it. And the third one was to match a real mentor with a real mentoree in real life to prove that this business will work and generate money. So I started with the first one. I wanted to apply the customer mentor journey in the real life. I took my managers I talked with during the customer discovery, and I decided that they are my pool. Then I got back to the interviews notes. I decided to assess them as mentors based on my notes. If I had doubts, I asked extra questions because I kept in touch with them. Then I went through the network of my younger managers in my network or older managers who hire younger managers and maybe look mentorship for them, and asked them if they would be interested in mentors because I might actually have someone to recommend. Then I offered it and I asked for the requirements for the mentors, focusing on why. So not what you need, why you need that, because this is how I can understand the real reason behind wanting this mentor, and I can keep the assessment more lean and maybe even better. So I did that. Then I wanted to try to match and assess the mentors manually. So I actually was able to get two matches. One match was a sales manager experienced in web hosting industry, and this guy can support a smaller company that tries to get the market in this industry. And another one was a C-level with a very diverse experience that could support rising managers gathered in the program led by one of the universities I know. So the first one has no outcome yet. The second one already does the outcome. So they are working on signing the contract and negotiating the money part. So just to quickly zoom on how I did it, these were requirements for the mentor from the university. So cross-industry, because we have many managers from different industries in our program, available outside of regular business hours because those people work and don't have time for mentoring sometimes during work. Guys, the mentor had to have mentorship experience skills, and he couldn't be a mansplaining boomer, basically, because the managers were young and we didn't want a cultural clash here. So the mentor I found had the cross-industry experience, fluent English, experience in international corporate environment, and did mentoring before. So I matched it. I was able to match it. I checked some details like, okay, are you able to mentor them in the outside of the business hours? And although he does not have documented mentoring experience, he did mentoring before, and the program manager at the university told us that he would push him anyway. So the objectives were apply the key points of the journey in the real life, assess and match mentors manually, and match at least one mentor in real life. And I was able to do every 3 steps. And so now I can say that the process, which is the unique value proposition of my solution, is validated and is actually providing the value. So that was the product development journey. I also went through a personal journey. And my personal journey was to come up and understand maybe principles I should follow more in my professional personal life. And the principle I understood the best when it comes to professional part was every product, every feature needs to earn the right to be developed. And to earn this right, we need to actually go through this process. We need to understand the niche and the problem. We need to validate minimal viable offer. We need to validate the prototype and market fit. We need to validate go-to-market, business case, pricing. And only if all of those are okay, we can actually invest money to develop. But even more important thing was my personal journey, maybe, and my personal principle. And my personal principle is that product leader, who I want to become, focuses on why, then on what, not on how. And that even though maybe my current environment is not really supporting this approach, I should do my best to consistently apply these principles in my daily work, even though it might be still really, really challenging. So that was me. And I want to thank you for opportunity for this program, to take part in this program, because it was an amazing self-advancing journey. I also met amazing people who helped me, who I was able to help as well. So that was an amazing, tiring, difficult, time consuming, but amazing experience.
That's great to hear, Bartek. Awesome. Let's go through quickly. I've got a load of feedback for you on this, and then we'll slow down and just talk about sort of some next steps for you. Yeah, I don't know the best top 10% presentation. Really happy with it actually. Straight from if you go through, sorry, as I go back to the problem slide and then try to follow as I make the point, a bit more useful for you watching the replay. So straight from the problem, I thought great context. It was really interesting, right? I was, intriguing. You're talking about your personal, why choose this, why this problem? Really interesting. And I like that. I love that you've deliberately pushed yourself here, which is, super important because you've got good experience, exactly as you did, not good enough just to go through the videos, but really push yourself. I thought it was great. Your tone was very good, was varied, it was engaging throughout the whole presentation. If you go to the first objective and key results, what I call bridging was very strong. You set up, okay, so we did this thing, and then that's why we did this objective and these key results. Said, well, the hypothesis is not enough. We needed to validate it. You've set the stage for what you're showing me now. So I cannot follow the logic really clearly as a listener, which is awesome. I love that you shared your learnings as well. Excellent. Just simple things like visually highlighting makes a huge difference. And it's very powerful sharing your learnings because you're implicitly selling the value of product discovery. Things like, we saw word of mouth as a powerful tool. And that was really important because it showed that this is probably an acute problem. These are all things that as a listener make me go, I want to buy in. If I'm CEO, I'm much more likely to give you the money, the budget, if I'm excited about the opportunity as you are. Discovery, again, awesome storytelling. I love that you had that realization that, it is intimidating, but suddenly you realize actually people love talking about this stuff. That's such a profound learning for you and your product rest of your life. You're going to realize that just go speak to people. There's no downside to it. It's only a positive. Great that, that sort of surprising learning potentially that it's about purpose rather than money. I love that you added a quote that really, in terms of storytelling, just helped visualize that blue cup exactly, really helped visualize and make your point. And then the next slide, awesome as well. Visualization of previous problem to new problem, super strong. On the next set of objectives, again, you bridge really well. You yeah, one thing I liked here, just for in terms of result, you made your life easier by starting with good hypotheses and doing that discovery work, right? The fact that you got higher conversion, apply that to building out a company. Think of how much money, time, employees it saves by doing that upfront work. So I thought high conversion demonstrated the value of that. Blue Ocean was very good. You in simple terms, you didn't use any clever product language, just simply what is it? Why is it valuable? Helps us find a gap. Crystal clear. And you bridged then into the third objective again, excellent. You said, I knew the why at this point. Now it was about understanding the what. Excellent. Awesome. Just to comment on strategic roadmap made it in fact, the whole thing, very clear and logical flow from your strategy into your roadmap, into the first outcome, into the first prototype. That the whole point, right, of these are building blocks is that should be exactly as you do it, flowing, right? Everything makes sense. Hard to do in practice though, which you did very well. I thought your lean canvas, very strong. I love that I was literally about to write, you haven't mentioned revenue, and then you focused very clearly on revenue. This is exactly what a more senior leader would do, because ultimately it's about revenue, it's about market capture. So that's about, talking about the strategy. And one thing to do in future, I mean, for today's presentation, I wouldn't have done it. But, if you're pitching to stakeholders, do talk about unfair advantage and unique value proposition, right? These are, how we capture value and then how we defend our market. Again, these are the kind of things to just show you're at top of the game. Final
it makes sense to repeat it.
Yeah, for today, it's not so important, but if you're pitching a business proposition, OKR4, awesome explanation. I think prototype made complete sense. Again, it would have been really easy to go and build a Figma prototype. You went and did the real thing. Awesome. And I loved you've owned your own principles. I think it's such a sign of leadership. Right? A leader is not somebody that just reads these off the slides that I've made for you. It's somebody that thinks them through and adapts them as you did, which is great to see. So just sort of slowing down, zooming out a little bit. I know we've talked about some, things for you to focus on moving forward. I think from, I was thinking about obviously what we've talked about over Slack and just general observations. I think there's one thing to focus on. I think, you're clearly smart. You've got a very good logical and strategic mind. So I'm not worried about product vision, product strategy, and that was really proven by a great presentation today on product vision, product strategy. Your blue ocean was strong. Conversion, right? Ultimately, that's the results. Again, awesome. You've got track record building businesses before as well. So you've got all of these sort of strategic business foundations. I think the area to really focus on moving forward is going to be this sort of customer discovery, opportunity first mindset, right? Not to say you did in no way did a bad job on this. I just from, we talked about this, right? From some observations with the assignments and in the workshops, you have a tendency to think of solutions. Now it's helpful, but, really, really going deep on creative, think insights around the problem, creative opportunities, these kind of things. And I think one very specific example was you meant in your notes there, you had the frustration of your niche being seen as too old. You wrote the experience as sharing your experience. Now that's actually a solution. I understand what you mean with it, but really what we would flip the opportunity there is how do we turn age as an advantage? How do we flip that into an advantage? And see, when we think of that, then there are many different things we could do in terms of solution. So something just comes with repetition, And it's a challenge for somebody with a very good logical brain to actually sometimes sort of go into this open, creative, messy space. So I think, just something to really keep focusing on. And that's just going to come from repetition, like looking at different problems, working on side projects, right? Different product roles you're in, that kind of thing. Just to, the only thing that I think you can improve upon, really. Any thoughts on that, or anything that you think you should focus on moving forward?
Yes, I think that, as I told you before, my current environment is very solution oriented, and I really want to. This was the most important part of this program for me, because I did my trainings before. I've been in Berkeley Startup Accelerator. I've been in the previously in another one. I was told, I was trained about that, but you lose touch with this in time. And actually, it's sometimes more difficult to relearn the good practices than to learn them from the beginning. Because over time, you find hacks, shortcuts, and once you know them, it's even more challenging to push yourself to take not the highway, but the dirt road, the more difficult path, because the difficult path actually provides you with the real value. It might be longer, irritating sometimes, frustrating, but this is how you create the value. So this is how you get 90% of conversion rate on the website that has zero credibility. I mean, come on, zero credibility. It's just a website built in the like a free website builder, no company behind it, no GDPR statement, nothing. Still 90% of people decided that it's valuable enough to deliver emails.
Exactly.
So this is how prove with the difficult path that it brings value that normally you wouldn't have a chance to get.
Exactly. That is the key. For someone like yourself with a lot of experience, you're never going to be told off for not doing this stuff. Because someone like yourself, you'll come up with good solutions. They'll be logical, they'll make sense, but they're never going to be category creating, right? You know, really challenging how things are done, questioning comment. You only get that when you, as you say, you go off route in a way and really dig in to the insight. So exactly. I think that's such a really profound learning for you to have moving forward now. Yeah. Awesome. Well, look, Bartek, as I said, I love the case study. Great having you on the program, and you really threw yourself into it, committed, put the work in, etc. So, honestly, awesome having you on the bootcamp, really.
Yeah, thank you for that. By the way, did I make it in the time limit?
You were 3 minutes over, but I was enjoying it. I let you go. However, you covered it. You also covered.
I was practicing so long to make it faster.
No, you did it very concise. Honestly, you did it really well. You had to cover the prototype. Most people don't, so 15 minutes a little bit easier. That's why. But no, it was really strong, honestly. I wouldn't have, for the amount of topics you covered, you were as concise as you should be. I think if you probably would have cut too much otherwise. I thought it was honestly really well done. Really well done. Awesome. Well, we'll call it there, and do stay in touch. Let me know how things are going. Any advice, any questions you've got, do reach out over email or Slack. I'm always very happy to help out with these things. Awesome. Well, have a great evening. You can get no workshop today. Relax, enjoy, and we'll stay in touch over Slack and email.
Yeah, I'm going on vacation tomorrow, so it's a good timing.
Where are you
going? To Canary Islands, because it's the only warm place around here, and there's desert, and I can just sit in the desert and read my books for 2 weeks.
Guaranteed sun. Nice. Well, enjoy that. Well deserved as well. Good time as well to zoom out and have a think about your next steps. And then... Awesome. Well, enjoy the holiday, Bartek. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes. Bye.